I'm Jeannie Miller, and I've worked at NorthStar for 40 years now, and I'm excited to be able to help introduce what we do to you all today.
And I'm Kelly Carson, and I've been with NorthStar for right at 14 years, and excited too also to tell you what we do and why we do it.
People wonder what NorthStar is, who we're about, how many people are involved in things. So we're going to talk about our services a little bit today, tell you a little bit about that, and
what we do and why we do it.
And how good the people in our area are to us, whether that's businesses or churches or clubs or just individuals in general, how inclusive they are and how much appreciated that is. So our mission statement at NorthStar is supporting people in reaching their goals. But I like to describe that it's kind of like to help people be seen and recognized for their abilities instead of their disabilities. People with disabilities get used to people focusing on that side of their personality and their life, and they don't see the person underneath. They don't see the sense of humor, the dreams and the things that they want to accomplish. So a disability can kind of make somebody into a bench warmer. And
we want them to play in the game.
Yeah,
help them get in the game.
This is actually NorthStar's 50th anniversary, so we've been around for a while. Some people might remember when we were called Region 4, but we've been NorthStar for several years now. And another thing that we do different than a lot of places in the state is we provide services out of people's homes, instead of making everybody come here from 8 to 4, to where it just provides much better services, much more person-centered if we go to their homes and provide services and then take them into the community and things. So O'Neill is one of 9 hubs involved in NorthStar. We go from Valentine to the Missouri River, from Chambers to the South Dakota border. That all encompasses where we do services. A lot of people, if you haven't made your own bucket list yet, you've probably heard of people talking about making their own bucket list, and that's something we try to do is to help people learn, identify what they want on their bucket list, and then help them find it. Earlier, I had somebody who we asked what they wanted to do this year. What's different? What do you want to do? And she said she wanted to see Elvis. So we now have a party bus organized to take her and some others up to see an Elvis impersonator, and she's thrilled about it.
Yeah.
So that's an example of.
Mm-hmm. We have planned trips to the state fair, to the Black Hills for vacation, anything that they have as a goal or on their bucket list, we try and help them get there. But it's not always big trips and stuff. Sometimes it's as simple as learning to use an air fryer. They want to do cooking in their own kitchen, so we teach them how to cut things up and follow a recipe. It might be helping them study for a driver's test because they want to get a driver's license.
Somebody told us they were afraid of knives. They don't want to cut their own food. They're afraid of knives. So we work on that, and we find like we've adapted to use this like a rocking knife or a pizza cutter, another way to kind of think outside the box of how we can help them achieve those goals and overcome their hesitations or their fears. Same with mental health diagnoses. You can't cure yourself necessarily of a mental health diagnosis, but we can teach skills and ways to help them cope with it and to manage and live better lives with it.
Part of that is like helping them develop their communication skills, because that's the core of learning their living skills. They need to be able to say what they want, what they don't want, and we have apps that we can use and teach them on their phones or their tablets that help with communication. We've taken pictures of like all the area businesses, and they're able to pick where they want to go. We can pull that up, and they can let us know by picking a picture on where they want to go, whether it's Baumgart's or Dollar General or wherever.
Or say you're going out to eat, so you can pull up the restaurants. They can pick which restaurant. Best case scenario, then that page will open up to where there's pictures of what they can order at that restaurant, and they will tell us that, and then we can put that onto a message board that they can play when they get there of what they want to order and things. Mm-hmm. a more simplified device, there's little communicators that we tape messages on, and we can use those too. It's just really amazing to see how when they speak, even if it's with an assistive device, people talk back to them instead of talking to us.
Yep.
I mean, we see that in the community, we see that medical providers, we see that people get haircuts. We had a guy who had artificial eyes, and he was going to see his oculist to have him checked and things, and their staff person taped a message like, hey doc, once you get those polished up, am I going to be able to see better? And so he played that for him. And, you know, so there was the initial chuckling and laughter and stuff, but then afterwards, the provider took the staff aside and said, what a difference that made in how he looked at him. To be able to see somebody with a sense of humor, that he'd never thought about that before, and just the needs, and to see him as a person. Sometimes communication isn't always talking, it's also listening. All of us here are kind of like the general public. Sometimes we have a hard time doing that. We had a couple people recently whose minds are just always racing, and they have a really hard time stopping and listening to what we're talking about. So we developed a little system where when in the conversation, when I'm talking, I hold a pen, and Kelly has to listen. And then when I'm done talking, she takes the pen, and then she can talk. It's very difficult to be quiet.
It's a learning experience for us too, because sometimes we have to remind ourselves to
It really
listen.
is. Partial participation, it's a concept of how I may not be able to do the whole job, but I might be able to do a piece of the job. And so teach me a piece of the job and you do the rest. And then maybe after I've seen you do it a few times, will have the confidence or encouragement that I will tackle another piece of it. I'm never going to be able to do the whole task, but I can be involved and I can do part of it. Like maybe I can't hold a mixer, or I can't put anything in the oven or take it out, but I can put the recipe directions on my communicator, and I can play those for you, so that and I can tell you what to do for a change instead of you always telling me what to do for a change. That's pretty empowering, to be able to give somebody directions instead of when you've always only been able to listen and follow directions.
Yep. And over the years, we've had employers that have gotten on board with this partial participation. They've been willing to carve out just a little piece of their job that they want them to do, that they're able to do, and give that one piece to them, and then someone else handles the rest of it. And
it's valuable for the employee as well as the employer.
Right.
And sometimes that little piece of the job is something like, we've got somebody who only works an hour a day, but she's been there for over 20 years. So it's something that is willing to do and work at. And so that longevity provides some stability for the employer too. And that's not unusual. We've had other people working their jobs for 20 years. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's a strikeout right off. We think we have a good job match with a good business, and it just doesn't work. And so we're back to the drawing board to try something new. And we work with Voc Rehab a lot for our employment services now. We really try to get people into the community, either to be employed, or sometimes they do their own little hobbies, whatever, or volunteering and things. But
and we have one gal that has candy machines in different businesses, and she has gotten to know the people in the businesses when she goes to put her candy in there and collect her quarters, and then it spills over into, she counts her quarters and then takes them to the bank and has, she has to roll the quarters. So she's connecting with both the businesses and the banking, and making her own money. Then it spills over into learning to pay her bills. It's a win-win for everything, where it's just started out as one little piece and then it adds.
We have somebody who gets pretty anxious around crowds and a lot of people and things, so what he does for his is staff support him to make dog treats, dog biscuits, and he gives the directions on his communicator, and once in a while they get him to help use a cookie cutter to cut out the dog biscuits, but then he helps package them and take them to the animal shelter. The noises in the animal shelter aren't as intimidating as noises at big gatherings and things. So that's an example of how we try to tailor their skills and what's important to them, and still get them established and connected with people in the community.
And then for the ones that do like the big gatherings, going out after dark sometimes is something that they don't get a chance to do a lot. And Amanda and the staff, like at Nico's Pub, they host a dance every other month, and everyone loves that, has the best time. They go eat, then they dance, the public comes in, and so they mingle with other people. They had a band one time that the band got very involved and had them up on stage and signed autographs for them, took group pictures, and so that is one way where it starts out as one little thing, but then everyone benefits from the interaction.
And we'd had someone give us a memorial from their family, and so we were thinking of trying to buy a karaoke machine. So I was putting out feelers, trying to figure out who could advise us on buying a good karaoke machine. And Good Times Karaoke started talking to us and telling us what we need, what you don't need, about licenses and all this and stuff. And pretty soon the conversation turned to, how about if we just come out and do it for you? If we just do that occasionally for you instead, and then you can use your donation for something else you need. Everybody has loved it. It's just been a really fun experience.
Yep. And we get that in a lot of situations, because we put on a prom last year for our first time, and in starting to get that organized, we had area schools that shared their decorations with us. We had students come from Boyd County that helped with the serving the meal. Casey Hall let us use their hall. A caterer out of Kearney did the meal. A photographer, we had a photographer come that did the pictures, and it just turned into a magical and memorable event for them, and they're excited. They're already talking prom again right now, so we're going to start getting that planned.
You know, and it's not just groups that make a difference. The late Lois Carroll, we'd contacted her because she had written a reading curriculum, and we had somebody who wanted to learn to read. And so we called her to talk to her to see if her curriculum would be appropriate for this person. And I don't know what her answer about that was, because in the end, she just volunteered to come tutor the person herself. And so for 2 or 3 times a week for several years, she would meet with this person and help them improve their reading skills. And what a difference that, I mean, just think about the difference in life if you can't read and if you have some reading skills. What a difference that made just in cognitive skills, but it also made such a huge difference to have somebody who wasn't paid to be in her life, who just stepped up and volunteered, and who took an interest and cared about her. It, you know, made her visible again. I mean, she was in the game. She wasn't a bench warmer anymore. Yeah. So, you know, there are people like that. I had one person years ago, an employer, said, you know, we all have disabilities. Some are more just visible than others. And that really, I think, helps summarize how people in this area look at people with disabilities. In Boyd County, we have the Davis Memorial Library is at Butte, and people in our program are really the foundation of the operating of that. They've learned to check books in and out, they do decorations, they host the reading program during the summer, and so they're a very integral part of that service in that community.
Our medical and service providers take the time to learn people's names, their preferences, their personalities. It means a lot to have them be called, you know, when somebody knows their name and is vested in their life.
And they talk to them instead of to staff. That's really an important thing. Just another real quick example of, a few years ago we had a gal who didn't speak real clearly, but she always called Party Line to request a birthday song for some, you know, friends and family and things. And Scott had a hard time understanding her and was just kind of guessing sometimes. So he took it upon himself to talk to us to find out a copy of her birthday calendar so that when she called, he could pull that out and smooth the conversation and understand what he said, and just made much more dignified. You know, it wasn't a huge deal, but it just makes such a difference in people's lives and in her life.
Yeah.
We've talked quite a bit about how the community is good to us. Maybe a little bit more about, some people ask us, how do you get services? Well, somebody with a disability applies to the state. They go through the service coordinators at the Health and Human Services in their county, and then the state will assess them and assign them a score from 1 to 10, 1 being the highest needs, 10 being the lowest. Each number on that list has a budget attached to it. So if I apply for services and I deem that I'm on a level 6, then I get a certain budget amount for level 6, and I can take that budget anywhere in the state of Nebraska and buy my services. We are a community-based provider that people buy, and we have, I think, 38 people right now in our program buying services. We have 55 employees, 37 of who are full-time, and so you add the 55 and 38, we're almost up to 100 of people who are contributing to the economy and to communities and relationships here in Holton, Boyd County, and in the extending areas. But I also want to mention that right now in Nebraska, there's 2,600 people on a waiting list, waiting for services. And the average wait time between applying for services and getting them is 6 years. Part of that is because we don't have enough people to staff our agent. Like, if we could get more people to come in and work with us, we could provide for more people in services. So if anybody's interested and thinks that this is kind of sounds like a good job, you don't have to work full-time. You can work part-time. You can help people get to know people in the community, going to ball games, decorating floats for parades, or whatever. You don't have to work a full-time job when you come to work with us.
It's very flexible hours too. The churches here are also great at involving our people in services and helping them be seen for their abilities. They do the partial participation, also giving them things they can do and be involved in at church, from being a member to helping clean. They're involved on the prayer chains, light candles, be greeters. Some help deliver Meals on Wheels, and one church even rearranged their pews so that the only place for wheelchairs was way in the back, and so they rearranged their pews so that our wheelchairs were able to sit with the rest of the congregation, and that meant a lot to them. They liked being part of the congregation. And
like the KCs, the Knights of Columbus and O'Neill, we have people who are members of them and go to their meetings, participate in fundraisers. They will step up and help give rides to people who are, or make sure people get somewhere.
The bowling alley, a lot of them are on leagues.
Last year we had one of our women's doubles won their league for afternoon bowling. That was pretty. And Cheryl and her crew are amazing with Special Olympics too.
Yes.
They do a lot that way.
What do you guys see as what's special about this area in your business and who you serve?
Well, this was, it was quite a coincidence that this opportunity came up to tape this, because this is our 50th anniversary, and we do want to tell the businesses, the churches, the clubs, the organizations, the individuals, just how thankful we are to be providing services here where people watch out for each other. And we may get a phone call that says, from a business that says, I haven't seen so-and-so out walking yet today. Do you think everything's okay? And things, because they're familiar with their routines and with their preferences and how they communicate and things. So it really makes a big difference. We want them to know how much they're doing to build rewarding lives and make lives that are worth living. I guess kind of one of my own personal benchmarks, if people have something to put on their Facebook page routinely, that shows that we are being successful.
And the community is very good about just recognizing the people in our services for their abilities, not their disabilities. And that is something that is very...
And I think, Kelly, we could even say that applies to people that don't have a visible disability too, because I think Holt County provides a lot of opportunities. Sometimes it provides opportunities to get off the bench and get into the game. That doesn't mean always being the cheerleader or the spectator and expecting it to be done for you. I think that you can really have a life worth living by getting involved. And for some of us, the hill is a little bit harder to climb, but with everybody working together and being considerate, we are making progress. And we're not a finished product, but we are making progress. And we really appreciate all the community's help with that.